Welcome back to the Dungeon Master's Block, the place where we come to talk about the Dungeon Master, the most important person in the game. With every conversation, we hope to inspire as many as possible to keep on Dungeon Mastering.
And I'm one of your hosts, DM Neal, aka Jote Maniac.
And I'm one of your other hosts, DM Derrick, aka How Not to DM.
And today, it's just us, and that's exciting.
When was the last time we sat down, just you and me?
I had not thought of this until right now. It's been a hot minute. Things have been very busy, and getting guests is both very rewarding and very difficult at times. But we thought we would do a much less formal episode. There's a very real chance you will hear children. There's a very real chance you will hear a dog snoring. And you know what? I'm not even going to try and edit either of those out. So if you hear those in the audio, it's like you're just hanging out with the two of us. Because today we were going to be doing some mailbag questions. And in the continued vein of following the Fast and Furious franchise, today's episode will be entitled Mail and Bag. Because we were on the fourth one.
Mail and
last time
Bag.
It was called Mailbag Teldori Drift.
Mail and Bag. Okay, perfect.
That's it. So, I mean, basically it's all user-driven content. We have several questions. We'll see how many we can get through. And if not, we'll do another one before too long.
Yeah, and if you want to be featured on a future Mailbag episode like Mail 5 or whatever the next movies are called. Yeah, I know it's Fast 5. I don't remember what 6 is anyway. Mail 5.
I mean, the fact that you got it.
Yeah.
I 100% plan to call the next one Mail 5.
Yes. If you want to be featured on Mail 5, then send us an email, shoot us a DM on social media of choice, and ask us an interesting question, and we'll plop it on down in Mail 5. All right.
I'll do it. Just listeners, this is what's going to happen. It will be Mail 5, Mailbag 6, Bag 7, The Fate of the Bag. I have no idea what to do about Hobbs and Shaw. It will get other people
it's
to
just
answer the
Neal and
questions.
Derrick.
No. We'll get.
Right. It's not us. Yeah.
It has to be people that have guessed it. M9, Bag X, or no. Mail X, Mail Forever. That's where we're at right now with this franchise.
Mail Forever.
Okay.
Who?
This is one of my favorite jokes. There's a comedian. His name is Kyle Kinane. I have followed him since 2008 when I saw him open for BlizzCon. And one of the funniest long-form bits he has right now is about the Fast and the Furious franchise. And he says it's his favorite. He's like, I know it's dumb. You know it's dumb. They know it's dumb. And that's okay. We all agree. And that's totally fine. And he's like, listen, they're like, the next one's Fast X. There's 12 of them. So, yeah. Go listen to that and enjoy it. But enough of that, because let's head to the meat.
I'm starving. We ain't had nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
Why can't we have some meats?
The flat meat's back on the menu, boys.
Okay.
Hey, Derek, can you tell us a little bit about your... Nope, that's not it.
I can.
Do you have anything going on there? You know what? I like this. I've changed my tune all but immediately because it has been so long since it's just the two of us. Is there anything that you're currently working on that you would like to share with the listeners that you can talk about?
You know, there is. It is TTRPG adjacent, and I'm going to call that good enough. So you get to listen to me talk about my hobbies now for a little bit here. Yes. I have for the last year been taking improv classes, which I probably have mentioned once or twice. And it's been a lot of fun. I've been doing mostly short form. Lately, I've been moving into long form with some friends. But it's been a ton of fun. I have done a couple of paid shows up in Salt Lake City. And I have just been invited to join the main cast, at least for a trial run, with the theater I started taking classes at. It's called Comedy Box, formerly Comedy Sports. Or an audition for another show at another local theater for a show called Spinprov, where they're going to have 4 spinning wheels with a bunch of random stuff written on them, and you spin each of them, and it gives you the who, the what, the where of the scene, and then the last piece is like some random twist. And it's like, wow, I've been doing this since the days of Quickfire Chaos. Like, this is nothing new to me. it just felt like home when I was doing the audition, and I got that part too. And so that stuff will be on YouTube and such.
I was like, all you did was flatten the dice out. It's literally what I was thinking when you said it.
I know. So I may, if people are interested, if one person replies or messages us on social media and says, I want to see video of Derrick doing improv, then I will share the links on the DM's block account. But if no one is interested, then I won't bother. But that's where I'll settle on that. But that's what I've been working on. It's been fun. It's a fun little outlet. Getting up on stage again has been a good time. I haven't done that since high school, really. So it's been a fun little hobby to pick up. And it's not very expensive either. Here in Utah, anyway. I know if you're in LA or New York and you're trying to take like UCB classes, it can be $500, which is a little bit more pricey, but not here. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun though. What about you, Neal? What's new?
I have learned most of the dark art of video editing. So I have been working on another project that I haven't really told very many people about. Really, it's just the person I was working on it with. But there may be another podcast in the future. And by May, I'd be like, I'm not going to spend all this time and not put it out eventually. But it's a review podcast about actual plays, just because I don't think it's just, that's not really a thing that, so it's Jess from I Seduce the Dragon.
Oh, that's right.
She is a Hollywood sound producer, working on such films as Into the Spider-Verse and We Are Venom and things like that, and worked on Karate Kid Legends and all those things. And I have just spent so much time doing audio editing specifically in the TTRPG space that it kind of felt like, okay, I don't do, I have none of the formal training, but a lot of this very specific field. You have all of the formal training and are just entering this field through the door of her own actual play.
Right.
And so she was looking specifically around for something that was doing reviews of actual plays and was coming up kind of short, and then had mentioned it as a joke. And I was like, well, no, that sounds pretty interesting. So then we went ahead and took a stab at it. And it's more of the approach of all of them are good. Everyone, it's the same thing as like every table, there's the right table for everyone. There's the right AP for everyone. And so that's one of the bigger things that we're looking at. But yeah, I mean, we're still going to be like, these are production issues that they're probably going through, or like, these are things. And then one of the other really big things that we wanted to focus on is like, okay, well, how would you do it? How would you, what would you make better? The plan is like, if we have a Patreon, that's when we'll spill the tea behind the paywall, because we want the really forward facing stuff to be really, what do I want to say? Like positive.
Yeah.
Teas behind the paywall. But the rest of it is just kind of just an approach of, this is really interesting. I mean, we've done a few episodes, and it's interesting that how quickly we butted up to, do you even think this is the actual play?
Mm-hmm. I remember you mentioning this to me. It might have been when we were at a Catacon together, but yeah, there's a lot of really experimental, interesting stuff out there. I think of a guy I had on my show, Travis Vengroff, who runs a show called Dark Dice. They like played the game, but then they recorded all of it and then had voice actors re-record their lines for the production, right? For like the horror aspect of it. And yeah, it's like, is this an actual play? Like, what is an actual play? I guess it kind of depends on your definition, but there's a lot of different experimental cool stuff out there.
Yeah. So we looked at, and everything's on the table of like, obviously doing a lot larger projects, or, reviewing larger projects makes sense. Reviewing smaller projects makes sense. Reviewing older projects makes sense, because it's also interesting, because like I have a very different viewpoint on some of these, because I listened to them, let's say I listened to it 10 years ago when it came out fresh. So I have a very different viewpoint, but if I go back and listen to it now, what do I think? And then I have to marry those together and then give my opinion of like, oh, okay, this is weird. This is super weird now, but I know how I felt then. And now I have to feel this way now of, no, this was, back then, this was the forefront. This is the best there was by far and away. And it set the standard for what we do today. But today, by today's standard, I don't know.
They can take this hit, so I'll mention them by name, but Critical Role, if you go back and listen to season 1, you're like, oof. Like, especially the first 10 episodes when they just plop you down in the middle of it. You have no idea what's going on. You don't know any of the characters. It took me like 20 or 30 episodes to realize the phrase they kept saying Vox Machina was like the name of their team because they gave you no context. They just like throw it out there as another pronoun. And I'm like, I don't know what this is, like, or a proper noun. Sorry. They throw it out as a proper noun. And I'm just like, I don't know what it is. And it took me a very long time until they went to some feast where they like refer to them collectively as that. And I'm like, oh, okay, now, which is crazy. That was like one of the first actual plays I listened to. And I'm sure a lot of people are on that boat. So they got a huge pass. And, you know, since then have really tightened it up. But yeah, early days, woo, not the best.
Well, yeah. And that's what you know what, I'll say it. One of the first ones we do is actually reviewing season 4.
Yeah.
The first part of season 4 for Critical
with Brennan
Role.
Lee Mulligan. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is
interesting.
Exactly. It's very interesting to look at. What does it look like now? How they're approaching it from production, just general everything. Because then again, you also look at the very top. What does the top do? And then like, how would you do it?
Yeah, it's interesting to see like who are the darlings now, but like in the early days, because there was nothing or very little, like a lot of people latched onto a few shows that maybe by today's standards wouldn't make that same impact or wouldn't make the cut, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So listeners, if you have a favorite actual play you would like Neal to review or you're interested in hearing our takes on, we'd be happy to do that. Just send those our way, but we would prefer they are not Critical Role, The Adventure Zone, Dungeons and Daddies. I'm missing another one. Not another D&D podcast. If it's one of the big 5, you know, we're all aware of them, but
yeah.
Send us your niche ones.
But yeah, you keep your eyes out for it. I guess, you know, maybe I can be bold enough. As of right now, it is entitled The Explorer's Guide to Podcasts.
All right, I'm excited for it.
But enough of that. We shall jump into questions, and we'll kick things off with DM Jonas suggests that the Dungeon Master's Block should look at an Italian RPG entitled Household, and it's basically the entire setting is a mansion as a country because you are very small, and basically you're dealing with the after effects of the master of the house being dead now, and everyone is like figuring out their place. That said, this is one that I found from a little while ago because our email is rough at times, but there is an English version now, and you, listener, could just go get Household. But basically, to quote the email, the kind of creativity that lies in describing rooms as territories and common everyday items as terrain is like what really draws them to this kind of setting. Like having aspects of the master being some kind of godlike entity who has left a strange gap in their lives. But yeah, like what do people know of like outside of the house? What sort of adventures do you even have? Those are the kind of things that are like inspiring DM Jonas. And so, yeah, like Household. I don't know that we'll do a full What Is series on it, but now that it's in English, it's possible.
This is fascinating. Did you, Neal, ever read any of the books in the series called The Littles?
The Littles. I did not.
It was a series of novels written by John Peterson, like kids' chapter books. And it was basically about a family of people that lived in the walls of a bigger house, but they have mouse tails. And it's like books about what it's like to live in the walls of a bigger family's house. And they like go up on the roof and they've got a cousin with a glider who like brings them mail every once in a while. And they just like steal from the people in the house for what they need. And they live in the walls. And like they've got a grandfather with a saber. And he has like an old injury from the rat wars or something crazy like that. It's just like the lore is insane. But that's very much the vibe that I'm getting from this, except like, okay, play it yourself. And also it's a huge house and, you know, I'm sure there's much more adventurous aspects of it. But yeah, that's exactly what it made me think of as like, this is the Littles RPG.
Yeah. Because my first thought was, as fun as it is, okay, this is why I remember it. So it's DIC is where it was converted for. Yeah, along with Inspector Gadget and Heathcliff. So I do vaguely remember this, but it also makes me think of an interesting way that you could reformat when you go into larger creatures. Because I feel like this is a very difficult thing, even for myself, to really convey scale when the players butt up against something that is so much larger than they are. But I feel like it happens all the time when you think of like, what is the size of a dragon? Like colossal? That's not coming across. I mean, we make jokes about it, certainly, of like, I have stabbed your toenail repeatedly. Mm-hmm. You have died. That kind of thing. So I think, using this as inspiration or jumping off points of what does it really feel like to deal with something on this scale is interesting, especially if you're going through a dungeon that's been vacated, if you're going through, a layer afterwards, all kinds of stuff. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Or if it's just giants.
Yeah, it's kind of like Gulliver's Travels, right? Like, he travels to a land where he is huge to Lilliput, right? The Lilliputians who are teeny. And he travels to another land where, I don't remember what it's called, but everyone's giant and he's small. And yeah, that shift in perspective is kind of a fun part of the adventure. And I feel like, yeah, it would be really fun. Like, when you talked about different terrains, I thought immediately of like a big, thick rug, that covers most of, the den or whatever. And you've got to traverse through this rug to get across to the kitchens and, what it would be like. It'd be like a forest depending on how big you are, right? Or a meadow or something. And it would be interesting to think about what kinds of challenges would approach and would be there that are man-made,
Yeah. This is certainly not the most family friendly reference that I could make, but the entire wall subplot in the Solar Opposites show is a perfect
yes,
because they end up getting basically aliens keep shrinking people and putting them inside a wall that's like a giant hamster wall because they're terrible aliens and they think they're mean people and blah blah blah. All that said, it creates a society in the wall, and the wall basically gets outside, and they create things outside. And so, that's a perfect example. And now
the government of the wall, the power structure,
the Duke.
And the Duke, and
I love Benihana.
The marketplace where they're like all hawking stuff, and I think that's a good touch point as well. Yeah, immediately when I thought about the Littles first, and then I thought second, okay, where else could you play this instead of a big manor? Like I thought New York City apartment, like huge apartment building, you're somewhere in there and you've got to make your way down or up or whatever. It'll be interesting to see what the master is like the point of the game to figure out what happened and why. In the wake of the master's death, are there still staff that live there? Like, is the house going to be inherited by somebody else? What's going on? Anyway, are these people, were they created by the master? Were they shrunk and were their memories wiped by the master? So many questions to ask. How did we get here? Why are we here? Where are we going?
Yeah. It also makes me think of the Cthulhu thing where it's like, well, yeah, like, I mean, if there was just like a group of ants and like they were all chanting, Neal, Neal, like I'd look into it. And then like if they asked something very reasonable within my power, hey, can we get like a cube of sugar? I'd probably do it because why not? And then eventually like you'd get another one who's like, hey, could you squish this other ant? I'd probably do that too. And so just the Cthulhu is like, yeah, they might. Because that's the other thing that like, I had not done more research into it. Like how aware of the master are they?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, super cool setting. Another interesting two things to put together. Now, well, this is my innate nature. I always want to just put things together. Not that it's in any way required. But the next one we have is from DM Mary. But basically they were just shouting out how much they enjoy the podcast. So as always, thank you for that. But they asked for tips about dungeon tiles. First and foremost, having a giant dollhouse that people go through. But no. Dungeon tiles are interesting these days, especially with like the advent or like how much more accessible I think 3D terrain is. So like that's my first thought is if you have anyone like in the group that has a 3D printer, like I would kind of go down that avenue first and foremost and see what that gets you. That said, the other thing that is much more prominent is also just printing. Which is there's actually a lot more like actual papercraft options these days, as well as just printing something out and then putting it on cardboard. The long and the short of it is, if you want, dungeon tiles can be as simple as like having a Chessex map and drawing with dry erase board markers, which is what I've done for the vast majority of anything I've ever done. I will say don't use Goo Gone. That's a valuable lesson, I guess, for anybody that needs it. I watched a friend use it and it stripped all the color off of the Chessex map till it was white. So it did get rid of the marker. I will say that it did in fact. Can confirm. Marker was gone. And so was all of the color beneath it until it was white. Did not know that could happen. But the other thing that I have like really high end elaborate terrain to the point where like I have an entire physical version of the Tomb of Horrors, but that's not necessary in any way, shape, or form. You, like I said, there's a lot of papercraft versions, and I would look to Etsy, Drive-Thru RPG, where you can just print these out and they've, someone's taken the time and effort, and then, you will reward them with some amount of money for that time and effort, and then you will be able to just build it yourself. Those are my biggest pieces of advice right now, to start. And from a storage perspective, I wouldn't mind some things that were more 2D than 3D.
Yes. Yeah, for me, the hierarchy kind of goes Theater of the Mind. It's free. You don't need anything. Then next would be dry erase maps, which I have also used most of the time. I feel like it's just so flexible and easy to be able to whip up whatever I need whenever I need it. And it still works with minis or whatever else you're going to bring to the table. If you want to mix and match your map with other pieces, you can easily do that. Next, I do like the idea of printing stuff. There's a company out there called Dungeon Craft, and they have a whole slew of printed stuff that you can buy that's also dry erase, that's kind of specific for a lot of the pre-written adventures that exist out there, or you can buy like the general packs. So they have sheets and sheets of this grid terrain that's like trees and, rivers of lava and temples and statues, and they have like little pieces that you can move around, and they have bigger pieces that are like the map pieces that are really easy and pretty affordable. Then next, I do like the idea, like you said, Neal, of just finding someone with a 3D printer. Oftentimes there are folks posting on Facebook Marketplace in your area that are trying to sell 3D printed stuff that might hook you up for cheap, and if you don't have a friend that does it specifically. And then my last resort would be like buying the really expensive dungeon tiles online. But that's just me. Again, if you have money to burn and you really want an immersive game, I feel like that would be a ton of fun. Get a fog machine, get some of these dungeon tiles out here. Everyone has their own custom hand-painted mini, and you'd have a really fun immersive game on your hands for sure.
So, yeah, thank you, DM Mary. And next up, we have DM Devin, who asks for ways to avoid railroading after catching themselves already having done it, basically forcing the players onto his path after they failed survival/tracking rolls.
Yeah, great question, Devin. Railroading is the classic mistake. Not necessarily mistake, but like classic thing that people always beat themselves up about and wish they hadn't done or are trying to get away from. I think the cure for railroading is twofold. Number one, we've talked about it before. I think you made the analogy, Neal, where it's like they're on a train and then they get off at a station and then they can do whatever they want at the station, and then they get back on the train to move to the next piece of the plot of the story. I don't remember if it was you who said that or somebody else, but
yeah. The other thing about the analogy, just to stick with it, is it's super fun to be on a train. Like I've been on trains and I've loved it. Mm-hmm. If someone like strapped me into my seat and kept shouting that I can't get up and do anything for the whole ride, that's not very fun. And I think that's the railroading that starts to be what we talk about when we're like, but if you just have but if you go off the tracks, when you talk about a train, that's bad. But even in the example that Devin presents, I think, dear DM Devin, you are being too hard on yourself, because one, you're talking about it being such an early time in your DMing career. And also I think you found the answer just intuitively, because it's the quantum ogre problem. And they went left when they should have gone right, and he had them roll survival checks and they failed, and then he had them go left. That's a solution. Like, that's a very viable solution to the idea that, like, I have nothing prepared for the path on the right. And, like, you know, there's the version where it is the quantum ogre, and, you know, you go left, you go right, ogre there be. But the idea of having, you know, rolling with that fail and having them go over to where you wanted them to be, that's awesome. Like, I think that's a very valid way to get back on the track that you need them to. I mean, obviously there's how heavy that hand was and anything like that.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. I think for me, my first game that I ever planned that was homebrew, they immediately went off the rails after leaving the town. Like, I expected them to stay in town. They're like, no, we're going to leave town and go investigate this thing that you mentioned happening. And I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I told you something. It sounds fun. You're going to go look at it. You're going to go poke and prod at it. So I learned my lesson really quickly. But I think that there's something to be said for making the sandbox smaller. You don't have, you know, acres of a sandbox to start. You give your kids the little plastic turtle and a few dinosaurs, and they play around in there for a little bit. And then when they've had their fun, you can upgrade the sandbox and make it a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. So I think don't feel like you have to plan everything. But I would like just have small ideas seeded, you know, throughout a town or throughout a region, just in case they head in any of the different directions you're not expecting, so that you have something for them to do. I don't mind the quantum ogre thing, but I wouldn't like make it a punishment. I would try to, if they are zigging when you expect them to zag, find a way to weave back in the elements of the plot that you think are important. And if they just refuse, then, you know, it's time to have a conversation outside of the game and say, hey guys, what are you most interested in this game? What excites you about it? What stuff are you wanting to go explore? Because then I'll just go prep that and we can all have a good time together.
Yeah, that's so valid. Of part of it may be just different expectations of the game. The other thing is, and this is not going to be fun the first time you do it, but you will eventually get more comfortable. At this point, I don't know my threshold of when it finally happened, but at this point, I bet my home table that I've been with long enough can see based on a look of like, there's nothing there and I can't do anything about that. You know what you did. You can't go over there right now because I didn't prepare anything for over there. Right. We can agree. We can all agree that we need to go a different direction. Okay, cool. We're going to go a different direction now, aren't we? Just in the sense that, because it is once you continue to develop that collaborative nature, and I think that's a big piece of it, is that once it really is collaborative at the table, like yes, it ends up being okay to say, hey, I don't have anything over there right now. If that's something that you genuinely are interested in, like, we can do it all day. Sign me up. I'm more than happy to write and build anything and everything my players want to do, because if they're interested, I'm interested. But I didn't do it prior to now. And if I'm not comfortable enough to do it on the fly, I don't want to do it. And obviously, again, over time, yeah, I'm probably going to be more comfortable to do it on the fly. But if I'm not, I'm going to stand there and be like, no, I don't want to give you something that's half baked. I'd rather prep it the way that I want so that it can fold into the story. It can be part of your backgrounds. It can be the next step in the overall campaign. And that's great. But if I'm not ready, I'll do it. I'll be like, hey, no, not today. But in the same way, I've canceled sessions early. I've stopped to take breaks. So these are, other tactics to deal with the feel of railroading is to, end early because you don't have more. To say, hey, can I take a break? Because I've had it happen where they just go through the content I thought I had for the session we set aside, and they were just done so much faster than I expected that I was like, okay, rather than start like this whole next thing, I think we should just go ahead and end it here, because this is a good ending spot. So yeah, there's some thoughts.
Yeah. Next up, we got DM Scott, who said the show helped inspire his gothic horror campaign, which sounds like a lot of fun. And he also said it helps get him through working long overnight hours. And Scott, I'm glad that we can be your pals during those wee hours of the morning, Dark 30. I know that whenever I have to stay up late, or when I've had jobs that I've worked late or early, or vice versa, it's always nice to have something to listen to, something to think about.
Yeah, the podcast episodes about bringing the magic of magic to D&D inspired, this is a direct quote, inspired me to create this gothic horror campaign set in Magic's plane of Innistrad with my own creative twist, of course. So that was just an interesting thing to go back to the magic of magic. And what I'm hoping this is a direct reference to is that, because I like bringing this up, because I think it is there's these little bits and pieces over time through that are direct D&D things. And maybe that's why I do this, because I'm just like, I know there are people that like, if it's not directly from Wizards, is shunned to the burn pile for whatever reason. And I'm down with it. Whatever. However you want to play, good for you. But what they did was they had this like sub series, because I think what I really think this is that there are people who are just genuine friends on the Magic team and the D&D team. And they kept convincing higher ups that it was okay to spend money for them to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Because there was a whole plane shift series that was not like the Guide to Ravnica. It wasn't these full-fledged, full production books like the plane shift for Innistrad. So and then this is leading me specifically to Plane Shift Innistrad, where it is a 40-page primer on how to play D&D in the plane of Innistrad. And so, and it's not the only one. So it was written by James Wyatt. It was kind of the forefront of who pushed this. And the world of Innistrad, life on Innistrad, creatures of the night, the coming of Imrakul, and Curse of Innistrad. And those are like the subsections within this. Again, 40 pages. It's not trying to break the world, but like, all of these are very interesting because I can't remember which one it was, but in its world, it reframed Kraken as if they were storm giants, like the way their society was, how intelligent they were, everything that they did were storm gianty and not Kraken. And like, that's the big change. And it talked about their society and things like that. So it's just an interesting way. Also, it's a ton of giant magic art. And if there's any complaint that I've ever had about magic art, it's on a tiny card. And it's very difficult to see the finer details of what is some of the best art in the world, in my opinion. And now it's just in like either full or half page spreads. And so, yeah, Plane Shift Innistrad is really, really interesting if you were doing a gothic horror and wanted to make it your own.
I love that. My son was asking me questions about Frankenstein's monster the other day, and it was very existential because he's 5. And it was kind of hard to explain it to him in a way that would make sense. It was a lot of fun, though.
And then you took him to the new movie, Pride, and scarred him for life.
Yeah, sure. No, I wouldn't do that. You can get scarred by, by weird cartoons from Don Bluth, the old-fashioned way.
Like we did, yeah.
Yep. But anyway, yeah, werewolves, zombies, vampires, spirits, these are kind of what lives in Innistrad specifically, right? And I think that would be a ton of fun. Like a Witcher kind of world or Van Helsing. It's just teaming with nasty monsters, and it would be a ton of fun.
Yep. There's Zendikar, Innistrad, Kaladesh, Amonkhet, Ixalan, and Dominaria. Dominaria is the ones that came out. They're not doing it anymore, obviously, because they made some that are larger, but those are the ones that were out for the plane shift. Again, like 40 pages, just kind of gives you a primer on what it would be like to play it in D&D. So there you go, in case you didn't know. So yeah, as always, thank you, DM Scott, for that. And yeah, thanks for reminding me, because now I'm going to go read probably all of them again. But our next one is from DM Patrick, who shares that he took our episode about Blink Dogs and was inspired by it to make them a full campaign where they are basically, they're like your hounds. Like when you think of high society, high medieval society, and everyone has a hound. And so instead they're Blink Dogs. And so it is more of like this invasive species rather than these interesting magical creatures. It's more of like colonial and like colonizing areas, if you see blink dogs, like you know what's up. And so yeah, the basis is they're trying to make it like a more nuanced campaign, because you have a society that has shown up and brought with it something that is damaging the local area, because it is a truly invasive species in that it is running off the rest of the fauna, and which is immediately impacts the flora. As someone who lives in California, when they were trying to solve some of the issues in the national parks, they reintroduced a pack of wolves, and it immediately changed topography. Like very, very quickly, rivers were running in different directions just because they were doing this. And so then this set of creatures moved this way and this set of creatures moved that way. These, the dams from the beavers were over here instead. And this river went this way instead.
Which is fascinating that such little changes could have such huge topographical implications. Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing, because the nuance is, how far do the PCs feel compelled to go? Which is, I mean, you've seen it from the earliest days of, you have a druid in the party and what do they feel that is required of them? You have a paladin in the party and what do they feel is required of them? You have someone who's directly attached to the system of government that's there. What do they feel is their responsibility in all of this? I mean, you could even have a player who has a blink dog. How do they feel about all of this? And so it is fraught with, it is full of nuance, and then that can also certainly be fraught with peril, just in the sense that that can butt up against some very interesting conversations. I like the idea, but then it's just one of those things where I would always have the availability to check in. Things can get heated in this kind of campaign when it gets set up. And as long as that heat is at the table and not above it, I'm always for it.
Right.
But that's just the kind of thing just to be aware of, is if that kind of heat between two player characters is becoming between two players, then you just got to insert yourself and make sure either you're changing something about the game or you're just having the right discussions with those two.
There's nothing wrong with a little bit of conflict at your table, so long as everyone is on board for the conflict. It's story conflict that's not bleeding into real life conflict, right? Conflicts between characters is a very interesting story, and that's what most stories nowadays are built on, right? There's some kind of conflict between people or environment or whatever it might be. So it's a compelling story, and it can cause growth. It can cause change. Characters change their mind on things. And yeah, it's a very fascinating arc to go on, so long as everyone's locked in and in agreement.
But yeah, I would say my last note would just be careful. Don't give the whole party a set of blink dogs. Also,
power
one.
creep.
One. They can have one.
All right. Last up, DMSC asks for some feedback on a campaign story idea: the betrayal of Atos. The plot involves 4 mini campaigns culminating in a final party versus party battle. You saved the juiciest for last, Neal.
Yep. Basically, so these mini campaigns feel big though, because it's basically they're leveled starting at 1 and thinking maybe go 13, and they'll go through a portal at the end. That's the culmination in each.
And I'm assuming they're each in different places or planes or something.
Yeah, and then you'll start with new characters for each kingdom, so it's also different kingdoms. Let's see, the events of the previous one will echo into the next one, and let me see. As a big conclusion to the campaign, all 4 of each PC's character sheets will be ready for them. All their characters will awaken, and there will be a battle of the parties to determine the strongest team. The interesting thing here is the idea of why are they doing it? I mean, you're going to have to get real hand wavy. The idea is that the one thing I think of is, have you seen the What If series from Marvel, the cartoon? And so that's probably how I would, if I was going to do this is probably how I would end up approaching it, to feel like I'm still giving the players as much agency as possible, because I'm making them kill 3 of their, I don't want to make them kill 3 of theirs. So 3 of them are going to go back to where they were, and one of them is not. One of them is going to exist outside of this. And like, do I have this like plane hopping team, or this like team that does more and goes other places? And like, I'm determined, I'm this, figurehead, because it's the Watcher in the What If series. But am I the Watcher like figure that is involved trying to determine who is the strongest of these groups to go forward and continue this adventure? I think that's a fun way to do it. Like, you've had them all play through these, and then you have this big pitched battle at the end. None of them die. They're just knocked out, and they're forced to go back to whatever reality and timeline and all those things that they were. But then the set that win continues forward, and that's the new party that you continue this 5th campaign with.
Yeah, I think this idea is quite ambitious. I like that idea being the way you culminate it instead. To me, if you're trying to do some kind of PvP and everyone is on board and is not going to have their feelings hurt when their characters get killed, I would maybe just do that. Just do like a PvP night where you all try to build the craziest character possible, set some rules, and then like just do that. And that'd be more fun. If there's some big emotional payoff, like a reason why this fight is going to happen, I guess. I don't know. It's just not my style, I guess. So I'm interested to see if you can pull it off, though, DMSC. If you can, and it works out well, I would love to hear about it. Big fun ideas like this always sound fun to me. It's just having the time and the people who also have time to commit to it. The pace my group plays at 13, level 13 is a few years down the road for us. So
yeah, that is my hesitancy with the plan. The plan would need to be like, Derek and I were kind of mulling some of these over beforehand. This is the kind of thing that like I feel like I would need to know I have the pieces to build it, not have the concept and a couple pieces and then go to build it. I would really need to be fairly confident, and even in having all the pieces, it's a tough lift. I would probably kick things off a little further down the road, or let them happen a little earlier. Like 1 to 13, like you said, is a lot. 1 to 5, 1 to 5, 1 to 5, 1 to 5. And then they all battle. And then I have a team of 5s, and then they move forward.
Yeah, because a team of 16 level 13 characters is going to take hours and hours and hours.
That's a sub campaign in itself, which could also be so much fun.
Sure, if you love that kind of crunchy tit for tat kind of combat, you should do it.
This makes a good show. I don't know how well this translates to as well as a campaign, but as a show, solid work. Imagine having
isekai
watched
in there.
Yeah, but they all get dropped in, and then, you 2 characters you thought would never see each other meet up, and you're just like, oh, will they like each other? Will they not? And
Yeah, I like that aspect more, where it's like, okay, if they're all united in the same, like, why are they all opposed? Wouldn't it be more fun if like 2 sides were fighting for different reasons? Or like you said, like, could one group convince the other group to help them, instead of all just fighting to the death? To me, it kind of makes it feel like the rest of the story. Like, what was the point if we're all just playing these characters to get to level 13 to just kill them off, like
that? And that's my thing. That's why they have, like, for me, they have to go back. They have to go back to their lives.
It's like a clone of you or something that goes on. Or like you said, like, one of them decides, hey, I'm going to go help this intergalactic police force or whatever it is. They become an Avenger and ride off into the sunset. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. But yeah, that's what we got. But yeah, thank you, DMSC, for mailing us. Thanks for sending an email. And of course, if you send an email, hopefully I find it. If I don't, I'm sorry. This is how spam filters and stuff work, and time and all the things. Feel free to reach out on social media if you've sent an email and you feel like we didn't answer it. Clue me in as to search terms I can put into our email, and hopefully I can dig through and find it. And to do so, the best place is dungeonmasterblock@gmail.com. And if you see fit, you can always head over to Apple Podcasts, your podcatcher of choice, and leave a rating and review because it'll make me happy. I don't know. Like and subscribe. People say to say that. I don't know. Like it. Subscribe to it. I guess technically you would subscribe to a podcast. It doesn't feel weird to say it now. Okay. And of course, if you go to social media, wow. Don't. Or just take a break. Friendly piece of advice. Don't do that today. Just, if you have done it today, don't do it again. And if you haven't yet today, don't do it at all. Just take today off. And that's it. You know what? I'm not even going to tell you where you can find us. That's my entire pitch. Don't do it. Don't go to social media today.
What a pitch. What a pitch. Okay. The Dungeon Masters Block is a proud member of the Block Party Podcast Network. You can check out other shows like Dungeons and Dragons and Daughters, The Bad Venture Club, Knocked Prone, We're More Than D&D Characters, The Titans of Altera, How Not to Dungeon Master, and more.
But as always, thanks for listening to the Dungeon Masters Block, the place where we come to talk about the Dungeon Master, the most important person in the game, the only person capable of playing gods,
creating a team of 16 level 13 characters,
and lower the ego scores of all of them at the table.
I'm DM Derrick. Oh.
No, what do we do?
Awkward. Oh, we got to fight to the death.
I threw up.
Whoever wins goes on to live in the cosmos. I'm DM Derrick. No prep, no problem.
I'm DM Neal. Good night, good luck, and keep on dungeon mastering.
It's not inspiration, it's not wisdom, and it's bad advice.
Just make them fight for real.
Goodbye.